Okay, next we're going to make the cutout for the camera, and I'm using a Box Air Micro in this one here. So if you're using a different camera, you know, change your dimensions accordingly. Highly recommend a micro camera because we need to save as much foam up here as we possibly can. First thing I'm going to do is go through and just like we did on the top one, I've got this one cut out. We're going to mark everything. And this camera is, what we used is 20 millimeters wide that it fits in there. Okay. And then this front part and the depth, the depth, we started out at 20 millimeters from the nose. Okay, we drew a metric side. 20 millimeters from the nose, and we drew a line perpendicular to our center line. And then we measured in, because this part here is 10 millimeters. They're both about 10 millimeters. So what we did was we just measured in 10 millimeters and drew another line, okay, and then connected those lines. So we've got this box here where the camera fits like that, and then the lens, which is 10 millimeters wide, we made our two lines 10 millimeters wide there. So it's easy to draw it out. Just draw it out in squares. Don't try to overthink it. Some guys try to get real cute and fancy with these. It's just not that necessary. So the next thing we do is we need to cut out this cavity going to the camera. And it's going to be basically the same depth as the battery bay. And once you get to the end down there, you can leave a little bit in there, is fine, because you want it to just kind of wedge up in there. But when we end up cutting this cavity out, we want this cavity to be, this part right here, to be at 18 millimeters deep. And this is going to be 10 millimeters deep. I'm sorry. So yeah, total. So it's going to be 9 millimeters deep on each side here, and 5 millimeters deep on each side here. So the first thing you want to do, and to save a little time since I've already got this cut out, using the same method you did before, I'm going to take this down to about 5/8. So we're just going to cut some lines. Oh, another thing that's important here. Here's the other thing we did. We measured up from the center line 12 millimeters, just to give us a little bit of an angle from here to here, because that camera's got to slide in there. And this one here, we just connected down to the bottom of the battery bay. And you only want to go up that far there because we need to save as much foam as we can up in here, because we have to cut out a channel, not a big one, but a small channel where the battery cover's got to glue in. If you get this too thin and too much there, it'll end up pulling that foam out over time. So we want to save as much foam up there as possible. So you want to be as conservative as you can about cutting these things out, but it's going to be a snug fit. It's not going to be the easiest thing to get in and out, but it's only going to go in there basically once, and you'll be able to take it out if you need to. But we're going to start doing the same way we did these cutouts. We're just going to cut some lines, and using our same blade we got marked off, we're going to cut a number of lines down about 5/8 of an inch. Okay, same way here. Okay, and then this is a little tedious. This takes a little bit of time because you got to kind of work with it. It helps to use a couple of blades here. When we cut out this part of it, I've got a straight edge razor blade marked up for the depth of that. So anyway, I'm going to remove this material here, and using the same method we did here, just use a number of crosshatch lines this way and this way, and we'll take it out in blocks, and use your blades that are marked off to about 5/8 of an inch to get down there. As you get closer to up here, leave just a little bit more on there, say, you know, not quite 5/8, because you want the camera to kind of slide up there. But same thing as before, just draw a number of lines, but just go up to the back where the camera's going to go in. Okay, you want to stop right there because we got to cut these out to an accurate depth, and just cut around it, and then cut you a number of cuts this way and this way, and then you have to work it out. Okay, it's not that difficult. It just takes a little bit of time, but basically we want that channel. It's going to be about the same depth of that, and I've left a little bit just up in here so that camera will kind of push up in there. Okay, now that we've got this part cut out, what we're going to do is when I get the cam cut out, if I can grab a hold of this blade, do it a little bit. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, so we've got to get the camera out of there. Now we're going to cut out this back portion right here of the cam, the big part of it here, okay, this part that's 10 millimeters wide. And that's got to be 9 millimeters deep because our camera, the actual depth of this thing is 18 millimeters, okay, so half of that's obviously 9. So we're going to take our blades here, which I've got marked. I've got both these marked. I got get this one marked for sure. At 9 millimeters right here. As you can see, I've actually got this one marked at 9 millimeters and 5 millimeters for the front. For the big square here, we got to go down 9 millimeters on each side. So we're going to do the same process as here. Just run those down 9 millimeters. Okay, and then another thing it helps to do is mark your reference line in. Just go in there 9 millimeters and just draw your little line in there so you know where the depth of 9 millimeters is. Whoops. And then we kind of know how deep to go. Okay. And then, helps have an X-Acto blade. If you've got a sharp one, it's fine. Well, I don't have a sharp X-Acto blade because I need a nice thin one here. First thing I'm going to do is we'll make some more slices here, though. Oops. Get our straight edge. Just mark it properly. Same thing we did before. Our little slices makes this stuff easier to come out. But I do have my lighter. Now, if you do this, heat this up. Be careful not to get it too hot because it's going to melt the foam. And when you go in there, go on the top of the line. Don't go on the line because it's going to melt a little bit. And just take out just a little bit. Okay. Or if you have a sharp X-Acto knife, you can probably just stick it in there and cut it out. But since I don't, we are improvising. Okay, and we'll pull that out. Okay, and now we have made this right here 9 millimeters deep. So now, the top here helps to mark your reference point. This one's going to be 5 millimeters deep because our lens is 10 millimeters wide. There's a little reference line right there. And using our straight edge razor blade, which we have marked to 5 millimeters deep right there, we're going to cut these lines down to 5. Go. Okay, now we got the basic fitting of the camera. Now the camera is going to fit in there like that. Okay. So the next thing we have to do is do a little bit of fitting. So it's going to take a little bit of work, not that much. You're going to obviously, it's easier. Actually, this one came out pretty close. Actually, this came out real close. Okay. Once it squeezes in there, and then the lens will sit right there. Then once we glue it up, we can clean that up a little bit. But just hold it together real firmly and take you something like a pencil with a rubber thing on it and make sure you can push the camera out. In this case we can real easily, so we're pretty good to go there. So we're just going to clean it up a little bit, and then we're going to take some E6000. Once we get it cleaned up and satisfied that our camera fits in and we can get it in and out really easy, we're going to take some E6000. And using our finger, we're just going to rub some E6000 in there to harden all that area. That just helps it keep from chafing and also help hold that camera in there. And that's why it goes to the camera. And again, take the time. Once you get to this point, you may need to do a little bit of trimming to make sure that it fits in there flush. You want it to be snug. You don't want it to fall in and out because it's just got to stay in there. That's all there is to it. Now that you're satisfied with you can get your camera in and out and it fits snug, we're going to take E6000. That's an old tube of it, but E6000 because it flows in. And we're going to just kind of, you have to use your fingers for this. If you're allergic to stuff like this, get like gloves. And we're just going to, what we'll do is just going to coat this camera area with E6000. You got to go in there and work it nice and thin, which is why you got to kind of use your fingers and just kind of spread around under there. What that'll do is that'll just make that camera fit a lot better. Especially we can like pack it down in there where it goes in there. And the front part where the camera, the lens fits. A little hard right there. Oops, piece of foam there we don't need. Same thing there. Just make sure to work it in good, just a thin layer. You don't want to goof up, but you just want to work it in good. Make sure there's plenty on there. There we go. I'll let that harden. And the next thing we'll be doing is probably gluing the fuselage halves together. Another thing we want to do before we glue the fuselage half together, we want to cut about an 1/8 inch channel at the very bottom there. Reason is our wires from our camera are going to come down, and we need to have a channel to put them in, and they're going to go right in here to where the all the wiring is going to take place. And it's real simple. You can just kind of eyeball this and make sure you're working on the bottom of the battery bay here, and just go about up to the camera there and just cut about a 1/8 inch deep channel. There we go. And get it all the way into the wing. Well, okay, I'm sorry I was interrupted by my wife bringing me some nachos. But we're cutting a slot, 1/8 inch on the bottom. The reason we want that there is just makes a groove, make it all the way back to the wing saddle, because what's going to happen is we're going to run the wires from the camera will go down that little channel, and we'll just put a piece of tape on them, and of course the battery goes on top of that. So now we're ready to glue this thing together.